Wages are never going to go up as fast as inflation. It can't. In fact, that's the whole point of having inflation, is that you're inflating away the working class's money and their spending power. This is exactly why like, no one will come out and say this, but that is precisely why you have inflation. That's why governments and bankers get together and they collude and they create inflation. It's so that they can steal back all of your labor. So if you were paid in a hard currency, right, then they couldn't do that. That's why they'll never say they want to have, for example purposes, a gold currency, not gold backed. Remember, we're not talking about gold backed. We're not talking paper gold. They'll never pay you an actual physical gold, because they can't. How do they dilute your spending power? They can't. You keep all that spending power, and they don't want to have that happen. So it's a way of saying. So the way that wages work now is that you're paid dollars, for example, which are not a unit of measurement. Dollars are a scam, and then the spending power of those dollars is devalued on the backside. So even if your wages go up, let's say that you actually got a 5% a year raise. Nobody gets that on an annualized basis. Nobody gets a consistent 5%. But let's say that you did. Let's say that everybody got a consistent 5% raise, but real inflation is 12% or 15%. Or, well, 40% like it is right now. Real inflation, not that nonsense they peddle on the internet. And that, the Goombas, on CNBC, that they pull out of all the Ivy League nonsense schools. No. The real inflation is closer to 40%. People can see it in their insurance premiums. They can see it in just everything they do in life, like their food prices and so on. Like, well, but food prices haven't gone up that much. Look at the quality of the food. Right, the quality of the food has objectively gotten even worse. I didn't think it'd get any bad. I mean, we're almost like prison food. Like, okay, I mean, it's getting pretty bad out there, right? And people are saying, and then the portions, of course, are shrinking as well. Portions everywhere are shrinking, and we also have these stories that come out all the time of the math, if you want to call it that changes at the checkout counter, where it's like you scan something and it's like, well, hold on, wait, that was only 12 pounds, or that was a pound, and I'm getting 10 ounces. Like, I mean, and there's videos of this that surface all the time. Yeah, this is how it is. Okay, so the theory is that with currencies, with floating fiat nonsense currencies like the dollar, and the yen, the RMB, the rupee, the ruble, it doesn't matter. The real, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Pick a fiat currency. Anywhere in the world, doesn't matter. The bankers and governments will always collude to create more inflation. Why? That is because of the greed of the people. Sorry, socialists, but I'm going to call you out on this one. That is, every time you hear somebody say, we want free this, they inflate the currency. Well, we want free that, they inflate the currency. The right, we want more insane asylums, they print the currency. We want more jails and prisons to lock people up for smoking the herbage. Then they print more currency. This is your greed, people. I'm calling you all out on this. This is your greed. Every time you say you want something for free, what do bankers and governments do? They try to make it look like it's free, because there's no such thing as free. It doesn't exist. You live on a finite planet. You are governed by the laws of physics on this planet. I don't even teach physics anymore because nobody understands them. I have physicists that don't even understand physics. So, no, dude. That's why I don't even bother with this kind of stuff anymore. That's why I don't do a whole lot of existentialist stuff, because, like, dude, we can't even fix this. I can't even get people to understand that you live on a finite ball. Or flat, or I don't care. I don't care. Dude, pick whatever makes you happy. And so, the fact is you're here. End of story. I can't even get people to fix their own lives, let alone, just understanding their basics, and they're just fundamental. I just saw some studies, like 43% of Americans of adult Americans are considered functionally illiterate now. That's bad, dude. That's not good. I don't mean you specifically, but dude, that's bad. Okay, that's really bad. So no, this is why I would point out that, when you are being paid in these fiat currencies, your spending power is being eroded on the back end, and it is deliberate. And every single time you hear somebody say, we need to have a law that does blah, 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 it costs money to pay somebody to enforce it. It takes money to prosecute people who violate some law for over blah, 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 right? That takes resources. And every time that happens, right, then government and bankers, they say, well, the will of the people, kind of, because remember, government and bankers are terrified of the people no longer listening to them. That's the number one terror they have, because as soon as people decide that they're no longer going to listen to them and just say, you know what, I'm not doing this. In mass, if enough people actually say, I'm no longer participating anymore, why do you think they're floating the idea now, let's get rid of income taxes? Because a lot of people are not paying them anymore. A lot of people have said, forget it, we're done. A lot more than you think. People are a lot more radicalized in their homes than you realize. And if you think that they don't understand this, you carry around a device with you all day long, listening to everything you say. Do you think that these people don't understand how radicalized the average person in the English-speaking world and in other parts of the world are getting? They're getting very unhappy. They are getting to the point. It's why I'm convinced now you could almost say virtually anything now, and they'll just leave you alone. Because at a certain point, a lot of these, for like the enforcement people, the cops that are out there, look at the cops. People are no longer taking any more of this crap from the cops, and rightly so. And so you have a lot of cops that are just terrified to do any of this stuff, and they should be. You should be, especially if you run up against somebody who's actually patient. The guy that you need to worry about, let me just say something here for you cops out there. The guy who is like flailing his arms and screaming and yelling at you, yeah, that ain't the guy you need to worry about. It's the guy who goes quietly and remembers your name and remembers every crease in your face. That's the guy you need to worry about, not the other guy. He's not your problem. Yeah, you guys better figure that out. Because those are the guys that come back, and just one day, randomly, 6 months later. Yeah. So, yeah, those aren't the guys you need to worry about. The guy screaming at you on his front lawn, because he's a homeowner and he's the one who lives there, and you're arresting him for some warrant he probably didn't even know he had, over some nonsense that because the courts are so messed up and run by incompetent people, right? Like, well, of course he's going to yell and scream. Why wouldn't he? I would be upset too. Wouldn't any normal person be upset, especially if they're like, dude, what the hell? I didn't even know there was anything. I thought all this thing was, yeah. I know people that's happened to, by the way. Several people, actually, that things like that have happened to. And they're like, what? No, hold on, that was like from 4 years ago. Yeah, that kind of stuff happens. You don't be in business as long as I have and not make a few contacts like that. And you see all this kind of stuff. Not to get too far off onto a tangent, but this is just how it works. So, yeah, when your currency gets devalued, that's what keeps all this. And then, of course, on top of that, as far as housing, because you mentioned housing specifically, housing is part of the Ponzi scheme. They've pushed everybody into the idea of, rental bros, get into the housing business, and just don't care what you pay for the house, just pay anything for that property, and then just raise the rents. That's first of all, it's incredibly destructive. That's highly stupid from a business standpoint. I have never made money buying a piece of real estate and paying anything for it. That is not the case. It's not how it works. I've lost money doing that, but I've never made money doing that. No, you make your money on the buy, not the sell. You have to find things at the right price. And unfortunately, the people who attend the Bob Kiyosaki classes, for example, purposes, right? A lot of them don't hear the whole thing and they say, just go out and buy a rental property. Pay anything. No, that's probably not what was told you either, by the way. Not that I'm a huge fan necessarily of Bob Kiyosaki, but that's probably not what was told to you. What was told to you was find a good price on something. Unfortunately, nobody listens to that part. They just say, oh my God, I need to buy a rental property so I can retire because I'm tired of my job and everything. I hate my life because it sucks. And I want to just have a lot of money and not do anything. Yeah. You sound like every other crazy socialist, capitalist, nonsense person that I've ever run into that just doesn't want to do any kind of work. Again, I'm not talking to you specifically, but that's how that works. So they turn it into a giant business as opposed to, places where people live, so that they could actually, be a part of the country in which they live, and that they're told it's theirs.